We have Nicholas. Nicholas Claro holds an MFA in fiction from Wichita State University and reads fiction for Ride or Die magazine. His work has been nominated for the Pushcart Prize and appears or is forthcoming in JMWW, Midway Journal, Ride or Die magazine, and others. His debut collection, This Is Where You Are, is forthcoming from Roadside Press in the fall of 2025. Everybody, welcome Nicholas.
Hello, thank you all for being here, and thank you, Michelle, for everything. And Prithvi, that was really lovely. Thank you for that. It's a intimidating act to follow, so I hope I do some justice. So I'm going to be reading my story, Fireworks, from my forthcoming collection, which still feels really strange to be holding and wonderful. So yeah, I guess I will just go ahead and get started. So this story is called Fireworks. Natalie hadn't wanted to come, but here we are, sitting at my brother's house in North Albany to ring in the new year. Gold and silver streamers streamed down from the living room ceiling, a large rectangular folding table covered by a white tablecloth and topped with bottles of champagne on ice, the largest charcuterie board I've ever seen. Every few minutes through the large bay window, fireworks explode and crackle overhead, decorating the sky and lighting up the neighborhood rooftops below. Midnight isn't for another hour. While the champagne chills, my brother's husband Patrick insists on whipping up cocktails. He's tall, bald, asymmetrically handsome, one of his eyes droops, and wears a long, manicured beard that smells strongly of expensive oils shipped from overseas. Tonight, saffron, with just a hint of coconut. From the kitchen, ice clatters in a metal shaker like a maraca. He likes to show off. My brother Glenn sits across from us and cranes his neck to peek into the kitchen, then cups a hand at the edge of his mouth like he's going to whisper. You didn't hear this from me, he says, but Pat pre-mixed the cocktail. What was that? Patrick yells. A minute later, he returns with 4 martinis balanced on a tray. Patrick and my brother are the kind of people who own serving trays. Each martini brims with bright bronze liquid and is garnished with an orange twist that curls like pig's tails and slouch over their rims, bobbing with each of Patrick's steps. I was just saying how you're an up-and-coming mixologist, my brother says. Patrick hands a drink to my wife. Don't believe a word he says. He's not to be trusted. I'm very accomplished. Sounds like you and your brother have a lot more in common than I thought, Natalie says to me. She hasn't said much all night, one-liners mostly. Yes, sure, fine, that's nice. Given the bare minimum until now. She takes a sip. This is delicious, by the way. Blood and sand, Patrick says, and raffles off the ingredients. He then performed an abrupt chef's kiss, which makes the tray wobble. I expect the worst because I am the type of person who always expects things to come crashing down. But Patrick manages to right the tray and avert catastrophe. Only small amounts spill out of the glasses. Scotch, I say, accepting the drink. Nat here's a lightweight. We're in for a show now. I am perfectly capable of handling myself, she says. It was a joke. When did you become so uptight? My brother says. It was a joke. We drink and reflect on the year, trips taken, weddings attended and missed, funerals, career changes and adjustments to existing ones, goals met, others abandoned, normal end of the year stuff. Nothing serious. As the conversation begins to slow, I mention, without giving it much thought, how I'm eager to wipe the slate clean. To start over, I say. Is that so? Natalie says. It's the sole point of the holiday. I survey the room, hoping my brother or Patrick will hop in to back me up. Tabula rasa, or whatever, I continue after it's clear they aren't going to. Just like you tell your patients that to freely move forward, one must untether themselves from the past. Doesn't that sound about right? Natalie has naturally plump red lips, which she presses together so they become thin and stretched out, colorless. From the corner of my eye, Glenn whispers something into Patrick's ear, and Patrick shakes his head and clamps down on Glenn's thigh. Your problem is you've singled out one solution from the many that you've heard me discuss in order to back up your unlettered statement. What kind of therapist would I be if I suggested the same course of action for every client? Natalie takes a drink and pushes her glasses farther up the bridge of her nose. She's about to enter full psychologist mode. In fact, for other people, myself included, it can be far more advantageous to exhume the past, to use what's been dug up to dictate how to move forward and proceed with the future. It sounds like you're talking about sarcophagi and hieroglyphics, ancient history. Know what you sound like? You sound like an archaeologist, I say. No one laughs. Patrick has a firm grip on my brother's leg. And while Natalie wears a look of amusement, I know better. A full minute of silence goes by. I hear each of them swallow after drinking. Clean slate, Glenn says, finally, a bit too loudly. What an expression, huh? It seems so, I don't know, antiquated, doesn't it? Saying antiquated is antiquated, Patrick says. I use the word all the time, and you're just now telling me this? He glares playfully, and his bushy eyebrows dip below the corners of his eyes. In front of company, no less? Whose side are you on? I'm not on anyone's. I'm simply making an observation. I like the way it makes my mouth work. Antiquated. It's fun. It doesn't matter what I tell you, does it? You'll continue to do things your way, Patrick says. Natalie scoffs. I've got an idea, she says. While we're on the subject of scrubbing slates and being mired in our ways, who has a resolution they'd like to share? This sounds terrible. I drink. Outside, an ear-piercing whistle tapers off as it climbs into the air. Everyone's eyes go to the ceiling. I set my drink down and with my index fingers plug my ears and prepare myself for when it blows. But nothing happens. There's the distant thump of music coming from somewhere outside, a passing car maybe. The ice machine in the freezer coughs out ice. The firework must have fizzled out. False alarm. I relax and set my hands into my lap. Then it explodes over my brother's house, close enough so the panes to the big bay window rattle. And through the window, the yard flares a bright, menacing red. I'm the only one who flinches. Everyone is full of dinner, and I'm loading my plate with prosciutto, salami, an assortment of cheeses and herb crackers, some olives stuffed with blue cheese. I have what can be described as an insatiable appetite, and come back and begin to eat, chewing while everyone chats about the unseasonably warm winter we're having and works on the rest of their cocktails. Mid-conversation, Glenn excuses himself to test the champagne bottle with the back of his hand, the way you check a child's forehead for a fever. The proper way to open a bottle, he calls over from the table, freeing one hand from the ice bucket, and with his shirt sleeves rubs water away from its base. The not so subtle way to ensure everyone sees the iconic label on the front is so there isn't a pop, just a subtle hiss that's no louder than a nun's fart. He extracts the cork. Whether it's made a noise fit for clerical politeness or not, I can't tell. Not over my chewing, not over Natalie and Patrick's laughter. I'm not laughing. I've heard my brother say this 100 times. For him, most occasions call for champagne. While Glenn pours, Patrick says, back to what you were saying, Natalie. I have one. I figured this resolution talk was lost. I fold sheets of prosciutto around a large chunk of brie, mush them together, and shove the glob into my mouth. Glenn comes by with the flutes, doles them out, and takes his chair back next to Patrick. Oh boy, he says, let's have it then. Glenn's been cooking a lot recently, for which I'm thankful. I admit I subscribe far too much to the beat method of cooking. He means the microwave. Shush. I was getting to that, Patrick says. Anyway, tomatoes were about to go out of season, and one Saturday, Glenn, like a month and a half ago, buys them up by the crateful at the farmer's market. Since then, we've done pasta night each Sunday. He made the sauce from the tomatoes. Our freezer is full of the stuff, a year's worth of jars or more. Patrick puts an arm around Glenn, kisses him on the cheek. My resolution is to be more honest with you. Once in a while, I would kill for the store-bought stuff, even ragu. Your sauce is, and don't murder me here, on the bland side, and too chunky. It's like dumping chili onto rigatoni. Glenn shrugs Patrick's arm off. I must have chosen the fattiest pieces of prosciutto. I chew and chew, not getting anywhere. It's so fatty. The brie is gelled to my palate. You are against me, he says. What's next? I love how you took it upon yourself to learn to make your own sauce. I just wish there would have been, a small batch trial run. John, my brother says to me, his cheeks are red, and he's trying his best to fight back a fit of laughter. Remind me what your retainer fee for divorce cases is. Why don't the two of you talk to Natalie first, I say, moving a wet hunk of meat into my cheek to take turns tonguing at the salty strands of fat stuck between my molars and the creamy layer of brie stuck to the roof of my mouth. Maybe she can help you work past your differences. Sounds to me like you've already done the digging part. Half the work's already finished. Don't speak with your mouth full, Natalie says. Do you even care how you act in front of people? We were having fun, I say. We're drinking. It's a party after all. That isn't an excuse. Natalie plucks the twist out of the remainder of her drink and finishes it before dropping it back into the glass and reaching over to pluck a pearl of mozzarella off my plate to pop it into her mouth. Tight lip, she chews, staring. I avoid her eyes and focus on the muscles of her neck, working in calculated unity of swallowing. This is how we're different. Not a speck of food is on her tongue. When Glenn's uncomfortable, he taps his collarbones. He's tapping them now. I resolve to stop chewing with my mouth full, I say, stuffing greasy cured meats into my mouth. Glenn, unless you'd like to go, I'll cut in, Natalie says. Be my guest. I don't like missing out on things, hearing about them secondhand. I look up to find she's already looking at me. Behind prescription frames, her eyes are larger and more severe. I turn my head, faking a cough into the pit of my elbow, and catch my reflection in the window. I can see through it. For instance, Natalie goes on, I missed out on this wedding last month, a childhood friend of John's. Tim Brown's? Glenn says. That's the one. John here was able to make it. Heard he had a blast. You know how these things are, the catered food, the open bars, women who are vulnerable in their desperation, wishing it was them up there and not their sister, their best friend, or college roommate. Doesn't that sound about right, John? It's like chewing rubber. I grind the meat down as much as I can, fast as I can, swallowing before I'm ready, almost choking. I wouldn't say you missed much. Don't do that. My mouth isn't full. You know what I mean. What, the wedding? There was a bunch of waiting around for the I do. And when that was over, then came the food, more booze, cake, and dancing to remixes of songs we all grew tired of 20 years ago. I take a sip of champagne and let it fizzle out on my tongue. John isn't the best storyteller, Natalie says. It's like trying to understand the punchline without hearing the joke first. I'm going to fix another plate, I say, standing. I'm halfway across the room when I hear Glenn say, I'm confused, Natalie. What exactly is your resolution? I want to know everything, she says. I have piled my plate with more meats and cheeses, added fruit, roasted and candied nuts, pickled vegetables, green and red grapes, more of those herbed crackers. On the way back, a few cashews roll off the plate as I cram a handful of them into my mouth, munching them to dust, a crunching like sprinting through gravel, clattering in my ears. It's minutes to midnight. There's a constant barrage of noise, low booms, high pops, whistling and crackling. All of this seems farther away because of my chewing. I find Natalie has moved her chair nearer to Patrick and Glenn's, their knees inches away from each other's. No one notices when I sit. I swallow and load my fist with several cubes of hard cheeses and huge, thick discs of pancetta and open wide. Natalie says something. I wipe my hand off on my jeans. I chew and chew and chew. She keeps going. I hear her voice, the sound of it, I mean, but not what she says because of my chewing. Though whatever Natalie is saying has them hooked. I grab a few grapes and a triangle of manchego and stuff them into my mouth. My mouth goes wet with juice, and each bite delivers a high squelching noise that ripples in my skull. Just then, Glenn and Patrick go wide-eyed, jaws dropping. They have their legs spread, forearms resting on thighs. It doesn't look like they've touched their champagne. Natalie's empty flute is on the floor between her feet. Glenn scooches forward and hands his to hers, which she finishes in a single gulp. Patrick moves closer too. Now each have a knee touching one of Natalie's. I chew harder, faster. I rush to wrap wriggly, briny-smelling spears of asparagus and several more sheets of prosciutto when their conversation comes to a halt. Glenn is the first to glance over, his mouth closed and his caterpillar-like eyebrows arched above his wide blue eyes. Patrick faces me, his frown lost somewhere beneath his magnificent, tropical-smelling beard. Then comes this brief, lucid moment where Natalie hasn't joined in on this judgment, and I take the opportunity to try and pack the prosciutto and asparagus into my mouth. There isn't much room left, so I use my thumb to force it in, the pockets of my cheeks filling as I work my jaw in sloping semicircles, aggressively chewing to make more of it. Then she is part of this. Natalie has always been part of this, even when I thought she wasn't. Thank you.